We told you we're going to take you on a journey across the state to visit some garden railways, and today we're in Tulsa at one of the more established garden railways. And if you've received one of our Oklahoma gardening brochures this year, you've actually seen the picture of a garden railway on the front and on some of the inside pictures. And we were fortunate enough last year to meet this expert garden railroader here in Tulsa who helped us get some photo shots for some publicity and also gave us some pointers. And I'd like for you to meet the guy at the control here, Mr. Blaine Emmel. Hi, Blaine.
Hi, Steve.
Good to see you again.
Oh, good to see you too.
Now get you a seat there and let's talk about how in the world you got started in garden railroading.
Well, I guess in railroading to begin with, old Sandy, like many of the kids, got one. Although I was a little upset at Sandy, he brought me an electric design train instead of one like live steamers like we had in Cushing, right, where we had the old Katy and the Santa Fe lines. But I started in HO railroads, but I soon learned about the Germans and English who were doing a lot of garden railroadings, and I like to work with bonsai trees early and some gardening.
So it's just a natural marriage almost, right?
Right, and I had an area in the back of my yard that looked like it might have a possibility.
Well, and it's a nice feature in your landscape too. Now, you've really personalized your railroad. You've given it a name, and tell us a little bit about how that came about.
Well, I call it the Kachina Caneos. I'm also pretty partial to collecting Kachina dolls, but and in visiting the live steam layout that they have for people in Durango and also in Shama, why I got the idea that I'd like to design one in between, but it would have the atmosphere of the northern New Mexico and southern Colorado terrain, and it would be in an era of around the 1890s to about the 1910s. And so that's where I've tried to
come up with that, and I think it's very resemblance of that too if people have traveled through there. Now, the thing that I found interesting here, Blaine, is your control. A lot of them that we've seen are controls inside. You've devised a way just to keep it outside. What have you done here?
Well, the only thing is the transformer itself I will bring in, but the other thing is with switches and blocks. I covered with an old garden, an old picnic box, which worked out pretty good to cover it up and protects it from rain. I leave it out day and night.
Yeah, okay. Well, now, you talked about your bonsai being an interest too. Let's get up and go over here and look at some of those, Blaine. Now, your track, you said you've had in about 5 years, right?
Yes.
How long have you been doing the bonsai gardening?
I started that about 15 years ago.
Okay.
But I really didn't get real serious into it till I got back into garden railroading again.
Now, come on back in here in this trackway and let's show them some of the ones that we have in front. What is this one right here?
That's an azure maple.
Maple. And over here we've got a ginkgo, right?
Yes, right.
So you just set them in amongst the garden railroad, and it just really looks like trees to scale, doesn't it?
Well, I'm kind of experimenting. I can trim the trees in okay, but I don't work on the roots on these when they're in the pots, so I can keep the pot roots down. And these aren't placed exactly where they're going to be. I want them to look a little more realism, but to give you kind of the character of what I'm trying for.
Well, that's a nice combination. And the other thing of course, like any gardener, is always sharing tips. And we told you a few weeks ago that Blaine gave us some tips on laying the track on the concrete curbing. And you can see that here with the clips, and that's what Blaine has used. But since I visited with you last time, Blaine, you've added a little bit more concrete with the trestle part. What are those? Right,
they're little porch piers that they handle at the garden shop. And they work really great for supporting the pier, because even when I have to fill dirt up around, that fill dirt, as you know, isn't anything to sit on. So these set right down on virgin soil.
All right. And you tell me you learned the hard way too. You used to use lumber under here instead, right?
Yes, I did. And although it was treated lumber, still the moisture from the ground and the sun baking on it would cause it to warp and make my engines go dipsy-doo. Right. So you've had a lot of trial and error, and of course, again, like gardening people, you just don't leave well enough alone, do you? Because since we've been here last time, Blaine has extended his garden railway.
how many feet are we talking about of total track now?
I probably, when you were here before, had about 150 feet, and now I've doubled it. Right now I have close to a total of 300 feet.
And this is all a new expansion just this year.
Yes, I wanted very much to get a crossover on my railroad. So back where we have the trestle, I designed it so that my railroad would come on down and underneath that bridge to give the crossover effect. And then, of course, I wanted a tunnel, so now I've created a tunnel that can help also in a little more realism, in that I can stop engines there and operate others on schedules.
Now, I know too you've got the track down, but just like anything else, you'll be doing some more landscaping and adding to this section as time goes on too, won't you, Blaine?
Oh yes, this tunnel was only put in about maybe a week ago.
Right.
So this has a lot of fine tuning to do. And of course, I want to put some more buildings in this area.
Right. And I notice you're using some annual plants here in this particular end too. And really, it fits in nicely with your whole entire landscape. Now, Blaine, I'd like to know, when you come down here by yourself and you're working on the track, does it really take you away? Is it relaxing to you?
It's one of the best relaxing things I know, because maybe you found out too, there are a lot of problems in this garden railroading. The problems make you forget other problems on the outside. And even in the evenings, when it gets a little dark, it's fun to come down here and run the engines that light up. And the sound of the old whistle kind of reminds me of the old engines I used to listen to in Cushing when I was just a kid during the nighttime.
Well, Blaine, we have sure enjoyed coming and visiting with you, and I know you put a lot of time. Blaine is an architect, and so you can see that with the trains. You're actually making some of your trains, the trestles, and we've enjoyed coming to visit with you, and we really want to thank you for sharing ideas with us, because we didn't have to go through some of those hardships quite that you did. So Blaine, thanks again for having us.
Well, it's a pleasure for me to show my railroad.
Thank you again.